Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Mila. This is mylatriesit, where I try a bunch of different perfumes. I'm also going to try doing our makeup on camera for fun too. I'm going to film this look. I think it's going to be the next video I'm going to post. So if you're interested in that, then keep a lookout. But today I'm going to go over my 2025 favorite perfumes. Not all of these were released in 2025, but they were the fragrances I wore most of 2025, and I'm just going to go over them. I've mentioned most of these on my channel already, so I'm not going to go super in depth on all of them, but I will put the notes up, kind of just talk about it with you guys for a little bit. So I have a mixture of Middle Eastern, designer, and niche. I didn't even plan this, but I have 10 total sitting in front of me here, so that's kind of perfect. So it's like my top 10 of 2025. Now that I've gotten a little used to saying 2026, now I have to say 2025, so I'm getting all confused. But let's do them in categories. I'm going to start with my designers. First and foremost is the Orbella nightcap perfume. I really enjoyed this from the moment I smelled it in Sephora. It's a biphase perfume, so it's a mixture of oil and water instead of oil and alcohol, so that does make it super unique. It is Bella Hadid's brand. I have a few samples of the other ones. They were fine, but they didn't stand out to me as much as this one did. This one is absolutely amazing. So this is meant to be used mostly on skin, so I would avoid any sort of clothing. But for example, it does come out as more an oil. You kind of just rub it in. There's a nice like little glow. But this smells like Coca-Cola, but in a really good way. Like that ginger just gives it a little bit of an edge, and it's just so creamy with that sandalwood. I think it has vanilla in here. It's just a sweet, creamy, like really easy to use, but it's available at Ulta. So if you have a nearby Ulta, I really, really recommend you guys going to smell this because it is very unique. All right, guys, that was interesting. My phone died, and apparently none of what I filmed was recording. So that's fun. Moving on is YSL Venique Tour. This was a 2025 release. It's also a limited edition. It is my favorite flanker of the YSL Libre line. This is a much creamier, much richer, sweeter version of the YSL Libre in my opinion. It's more of a good gourmand take on the YSL Libre. And this has the bourbon vanilla and the vanilla caviar in it. And it just makes it so addicting, and I'm so happy I picked up a bottle. I kind of regret not picking up another bottle, but that's okay. All right, and moving on, I have two Middle Eastern fragrances. The first is Latafa Peace and Love, and I've been raving about this all year. I know this isn't a 2025 release, but I discovered it in 2025 and became absolutely blown away by it. I think this is probably one of the more unisex fragrances in this list, but it is so intriguing. It is supposed to be an inspiration from Soir Malachi, but that heliotrope kind of brings a sharpness to it, along with the black currant, which is a nice freshness, and the bergamot. The almond softens it and makes it a little creamier, along with like the rose vanilla and sandalwood just balances it out, makes it grounded. It's interesting to think about because it's almost as if those deep notes were super light and airy, and because of that I absolutely love this fragrance. Up next is Hadlaj Nafai Shark. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this bottle's gorgeous. I'm absolutely in love with this. It's funny because gardenia is a note that I don't typically gravitate towards, but there's another fragrance on this list that also has gardenia. So those are the two fragrances that are gardenia for me done super well. This one also has pear in it, this is one of three fragrances on this list that has pear. Pear is one of my most loved notes of all time. I'm absolutely obsessed with anything usually that has pear in it, but this is top notes of like gardenia and the apricot, which makes it a lot creamier. The apricot brings like a fruity freshness to it, but the pear just makes it so addictive to me personally. Someone at the grocery store actually stopped me and she was like, "Oh, what are you wearing? You smell so good." And I was like, "Oh, it's this fragrance." And I showed it to her. All right, that's it for my Middle Eastern ones. I just had two quick ones, and moving on, the last five are all niche, actually six. The last six are all niche perfumes. I'm going to start off with Lise Beau. I don't have a full bottle of this because I went through a phase, like here, for example, I went through a phase where I was super into getting 10 mils because it is really hard for me to go through a whole bottle of something because my collection is growing and I become super fixated on one fragrance, and that's all I'll wear for like a whole week, 2 weeks, and then I'll move on to another one, and then I'll just do like rounds of that as I'm going through my collection. But Lise Beau, I found out about this fragrance from Anna, and this is perfume as art. The second I smelled this fragrance, it reminded me of why I got into niche perfumes in the first place, because to me it's art. I can smell it for such a long time, and every time I smell it, I get like different notes. I pick up on different things. Like I see how fragrances blend together, and this is a really, really, really well-rounded, well-blended fragrance that every time I smells, I just appreciate more and more. It is pretty unisex, I'd say, if not slightly masculine. It has a tobacco note in here. I don't think you absolutely have to love tobacco to love this fragrance, because I'm not a huge tobacco lover. I've become more appreciative of the note as I've gone through my perfume journey. This fragrance is just so incredibly unique. It is perfumery as art. All right, next we have BDK Empatia. This was such a great release for this year, for the house, for any fragrance. It's just a really well-loved fragrance. It does kind of remind me of Guidance a little bit with the Akigala wood and the rose. I think it also has pear in it. So yeah, it also has pear in it. So it's no surprise that I'm absolutely obsessed with this. It was an instant love the first time I smelled it. This is my second 10 ml of this. But another thing for this fragrance, it is more of like a spring and summer fragrance. So once it kind of got significantly colder, I didn't gravitate towards it as much. I started gravitating towards Bois. There are two fragrances on this list that are incredibly special to me for sentimental reasons. Like this one I wore on my ceremony day for my wedding, and this one I wore during my reception. So there were two separate days. Also during most of like the bridal fitting and all the bridal related stuff in preparation for the wedding, I was wearing this. So every time I smell it, it reminds me of that time of the year. I chose this one specifically for my ceremony day because it is just the most ethereal fragrance I can think of. It has all the elements of perfumery that I love. It has kind of like that ethereal vibe. It has sandalwood, it has lactonic scents, it has sweetness, like it has floral notes without it being overwhelming. This is just such a unique fragrance while being incredibly bridal too. Like the bottle's white. It reminds me of white dresses, mystical, like magical events almost. If you haven't smelled this fragrance, I would highly recommend getting your nose on it. And since we're on the topic, House of Beau Ave Maria, it's just the cap. The cap kind of explains the fragrance. It does have gardenia in here, but this is gardenia done well. It has a red wine note in here too, which makes it really unique. A little bit more like rich. It's incredibly sweet, but very airy at the same time. I know I've said ethereal a lot, but this fragrance is just like a very ethereal fragrance. And I think that's the vibe they were going for anyways. The promo for this fragrance was just very like angelic, and it was Kathleen Lights. If you look at the images of it, I might put some up here. It kind of gives off that vibe. All right, down to the last two, we have Hibiscus Mahajad next. I know this isn't a release of this year, and I also didn't discover it this year, but I became obsessed with it this year. This was one that the first time I smelled it, it was just kind of like, it smells good, but whatever. Which is funny because the same thing happened to me with Delina, and then I became really obsessed with Delina like months later. Same thing happened with me here. I just smelled it and I was like, And then I circled back to the sample I had of it. And then the second I smelled the sample again, I was like, oh my God, why haven't I been like obsessed with this whole time? It does have the hibiscus note in here. It also has peppermint, which isn't a standalone note. Like you can't just pick that out when you smell it. It brings like a freshness to the fragrance without being super citrusy. It also has like leather, it has cinnamon, it has rose, it has vanilla. It's also a beast mode fragrance. Every time I wear this, like you can smell me from far away. All right, last but not least is Amouage Guidance 46. It's really hard to just say the 46 without saying the original because I equally love both of them. I think the original Guidance is a little deeper, whereas the Amouage Guidance 46 still beast mode, but it's almost sweeter and lighter. Not so much in intensity, but the notes are just fresher. It has the pear in it, which is absolutely incredible. But I actually layer them together. I usually put the original and then I spray this over top. It is excessive. You don't need to do that. You can pick one or the other. I can't pick between both of them. They are unique enough to me where I can have both in my collection and not be redundant. And I will say both of them are in my #1 place for my favorite perfume in my entire collection. I think this one will always be my favorite perfume for sentimental reasons, but in terms of perfumery, mostly in terms of uniqueness, lasting power, the level that I enjoy it, the artistry. It has everything I look for in an amazing, amazing fragrance. Let me know if you guys had an all-time favorite of 2025. Super random other side note, I've been super into audiobooks lately, and I just can't stop listening to them. I do like more of like the suspense, thriller, mystery category. I'm not super into romance or fantasy. I don't really like quests, but if you guys have any mystery recommendations, leave them down below. But that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.